Welcome back to the What Are You Made Of podcast with your boy, Mike C-Roc. Thank you for joining us. I'm fired up today because I have my friend Kosi Stobbs in the house. He's the CEO of Specific Mechanical Systems and the director of Property Owl Investment Solutions. As a teenager, he worked at a Burger King to support himself for college. By the way, I worked at McDonald's for about a week. He graduated at the age of 22, where he also bought his first property. He dreamt of helping and inspiring other troubled youth to find another way, and now is the owner of over 10 properties by the age of 30. Now he owns a market cap of over 50 million in business and real estate and has over 100 employees. Wow. I can't wait to dig deeper into that. What's up, Kosi?
Yeah, love. I'm great to be here, Mike. Good to chat with you.
Thanks for coming on. I appreciate you being here. And, look, the whole thing with the What Are You Made Of movement is about, we all go through different things in our journeys to get to success, and some are harder than others. It's, you can't really compare yourself to someone else. You have to really go your own journey, but we all have setbacks and letdowns and things that appear negative to us. And this movement that I started is all about turning those things into rocket fuel for your future. And I know just by reading the story and what I know from you already, I know you've done that. And so we're looking forward to hearing that from you and finding out what you're made of.
Absolutely. I'm going to start as early as I can start. And, I could be on with you, Mike, for days to talk about setbacks, because I feel like every day is you get kicked in the nuts at least once or twice, right? So I'll start at the beginning. So my parents, they immigrated from Jamaica, and they came with $100 and just hope for the future, right? And that was the biggest kind of inspiration for me as a kid, just knowing that they did everything they could do so that I had an opportunity to be in a country where I could make the most of it, right? So I always felt like I won the lottery, because for my mom to come, she literally won a lottery. She was one of 1,000 people that had applied for a nanny job, and she got it so that she was able to come to North America, and then through that, sponsor my dad. So it's kind of like, it's almost like it was like a lottery that I came to Canada. So we start at there, right? Because they didn't have a good education. She came in as a nanny. So now the family's in Canada, and I was born here, so first generation, and I really struggled with school, right? Like I literally was I'll give you an example. Grade 3, I'm copying off this kid named Randy, and one day the teacher goes and writes Randy's mark on the board, right? 43% was his average. And I was copying off of him. So Randy was the second dumbest kid in the class. I was the dumbest. And, I made the resolve that if I was going to fail at a school, I was going to fail on my own accord, right? So I just started studying and working hard. So, and I started to see success in grades. I slowly improved. I went from 40s to 50s, 50s to 60s. And then I graduated with 78.5%, which was 0.5% high enough to get into engineering, right? So I literally went from the dumbest kid in the class to one of the brightest in the class, off sheer like years and years of like just reading, rereading. And I also struggled really deeply with reading itself. Like I've got dyslexia, so I can't read well. And when the teacher goes around the room and she's like, okay, everyone read a sentence.
Yeah.
And then they get to you. Like that was so nerve-wracking for me, because I would just read like the kids are laughing and they're having a good time, and it's just heart-wrenching. So fast forward, I'm about grade 5, and the teacher says we have to do a classroom presentation. And I'm thinking like, fuck, I'm going to have to go in front of the class and read like I do. I'm like, there's no way I can let that happen. So I went home and I studied my speech for like 50 hours, right? Like read it so I wouldn't have to have notes. But what that did was, when I stepped up in front of the room in grade 5, I owned that room. Do you know what I mean? Like I gave a speech for the ages, and everyone was like, wow, where did that come from? Kosi, you're the dumb kid. How is this dumb kid such a good speaker? The reason why I was a good speaker is because I was petrified of having to speak in front of my peers. So instead of putting 2 hours in, I put 50 hours into a speech. If you put 50 hours into a 5-minute, 2-minute, 2 to 5 minute speech, it's going to be good, right? Yep. It's going to be good. And the struggle of dyslexia, the struggle of not being a good student, and that link between hard work and accomplishment was what made me a great speaker later on. and what made me a better student later on. I saw that link early on. I saw that link in grade 5 between like going from this is how you go, right, to I'm out, I'm projecting, I'm walking around the room because I'm so confident and I'm feeling the energy of the crowd. And I saw that in grade 5, the link between that first starting that speech and the first hour of it, and it being really horrible, to hour 50 and it being fantastic, and then getting accolades from it. I was like, wow, work hard, things happen.
Yeah. No, I don't want to cut you off, but I'm going to for a second because this story is great.
Lovely,
but the thing about this is, by the way, we are at quarantine and I have kids and dogs and stuff. So I apologize. This isn't the normal circumstance for podcasting. So you may hear some sounds in the background, but that's okay. I think everybody's dealing with it right now. But I just want to keep my smile on my face. But the thing with dyslexia, when you were reading, so let's give the audience an idea of like, so when you're reading and you're going from left to right, is it that you see things backwards, or how does it, like, what was the situation with it?
So for me, it's I have to really stare at the word before it comes to me of what it is. And it's not so much, it's just really hard to pick it up. So like when I scan a book and I'm reading it, I can read it, but I'll flip some of the letters. So I have to really stare before it comes into focus for me of what that word is. So it just takes me a long time to read through it.
Right.
And as a result, everything was harder. Like tests are harder. Like there's a whole bunch of things where, you give 2 kids, you've got an hour to finish this, and they base it off of a certain standard. Like I went through my adolescence thinking I was stupid, just because of the feedback I got. And a lot of times it was, I just couldn't finish the test, as opposed to not understanding the material as much.
Right. And then so the other thing with this is the fact that you put hours in, got a little bit better each time. And the thing is with confidence, you get a little bit more confidence. And then instead of like kind of being timid and tiptoeing, you get a little swagger to you. And then that swagger also is attractive because people see that and they want to be around it. And then you see their reaction and then you build upon that. Is that right or what?
That's exactly what happened. I remember vividly that first like 10, 15 seconds of the speech where I can see people's reaction in the crowd of like, wow, he's good. And then I went from good to like, let's go. Walking down the aisles as a 5-year-old, telling the speech, like, you know what I mean? Like I had Kanye West confidence. And for the first time in an educational field, I had that confidence. And it was because I worked hard. And that's what drove the link between like I tell people all the time, like my success is on any standard is viewed as a high achievement. But when you break down how hard I worked to get that success, nobody looks at it and says, wow, I don't understand how he got there. Right. And anybody that was involved, and it's like little things of like being, even when I got to university, I get into an engineering degree, and I was 0.5% high enough to get into engineering. And the first week, the professor says, 1/3 of the students fail out. And if you were barely got in, you have a high likelihood of failing out. So now I'm in a room with some of the smartest people in the city, and I'm doing a course with them. And I'm like, holy shit, I've got a high likelihood of failing out. But what I knew that I had that they didn't have was that work ethic. And I literally, from the time I started engineering, it was work from 7 o'clock in the morning till 10, 11 o'clock at night, every day studying, every day. Because I knew that if I studied as much as they did, they were going to crush me because they had more natural ability, but I knew I could outwork them. So I did that for 4 years, to the point where someone said to me, Kosi, if you keep working this hard, you are going to burn out, right? And I'm 38 now. That was 20 years ago. They told me I was going to burn out. I still haven't burned out yet. Right? Because I'm still going. Like I don't have that off switch. I have go. And like it relates to my dreams and my aspirations. It's like I go. Because like for me, like people say, what are you passionate about? Like this is it. Doing stuff like this, sharing my story, inspiring other people, like doing it, accomplishing. That is my dream. So it's like when it's your dream and it's in you, like it doesn't feel like work to me. It feels like, yes, I get to do this. Like I'm in I get to do what I love to do.
I feel you. I have the same thing, man. It's something running through my veins, man. I just like, but I'll tell you, the people that don't have that, I don't think it's necessarily a natural thing. The people that don't have it just haven't thought about what their wildest imagination dreams would be.
Totally.
Right? If they could think that, most people, 95% of people, if you ask that question, do you know what you would want? 2 or 3 things. If you could have anything in the world, what would it be that you would want? 95% of people don't know the answer to that.
Totally.
And so when the 5% of people do, or the people that have written it down, and then you wake up in the morning having that drive from that is it's like I can't describe it, man. It's
right.
like it's very powerful.
It's a totally different type of feeling. It's a whole different type of emotion, right? Unless you go through it, you don't understand. And I get it, right? Because I've been through it. I'm living through it. You know,
and then everybody that sees it wants to say that you're a workaholic or you're obsessed or you're addicted to work. And it's not that, man. It's that we have a vision, we have a dream, a goal, and we don't have the limitation in our brain anymore. And we're going for it. Now we don't know how long it's going to take, right? Because sometimes I don't know if I wanted to ask you about this too. And by the way, if you're watching this live on Facebook, guys, if you have any questions, put them in the comments. We'll try to get to them. But one of the things that I like really, man, I lost my train of thought on that. What was I just saying before I said put stuff in the comments? I don't know. Anyway, when you have a goal and you're going after it and people call you a workaholic, and that's what I was saying, they call you a workaholic, they think you're working too much. Most of the time it's because they're in that 95% that haven't figured out what their dreams are.
Totally.
And so you got to be careful not to listen to them.
Absolutely.
As you're going through. So tell me some stories about that. That's what I wanted to ask you. Like, when you were going through it, did you have people kind of saying, hey man, you're a little obsessive?
All the time. But my goals were so much bigger than me. Like my dreams were so much bigger. Like I looked at it differently. Like I looked at this, Mike. I said, look, if I was born in Jamaica, right, I wouldn't be where I am today. You know, my mom sold for a living, made like $3 or $4 a day. My dad, didn't have a formal education. He lived in the countryside. I would have just been like a farmer, right? So the fact that I was given this opportunity, I was like, wow, I'm given a chance to show people that if you work hard and you achieve, this is what can happen in your life. Like, so my thing was not for me. It's for the hundreds of millions of people that believe that because of how they're born or where they're born, that defines who they become, right? So my goals became so much bigger than just me. It's them. And so like little things of like, do I want to go here or do that? Do I want to go here or do that? And then to add to that, in 2006, so I had an older brother, right? And he was involved in illegal activity. And in 2006, he was killed, right? But him and I were wired the same in a lot of ways. But he chose a path that I didn't. And I just felt like, okay, with him, I wanted to honor him by, if I become a billionaire, and that's my goal now. My goal is a billionaire, and I'm not afraid to tell people, if I become a billionaire, the amount I can do in terms of charity work to allow people to know here's the path that you can go on to achieve is so much bigger than me, right? There's so many millions of people I can influence based on where my head is and how I'm wired that it's like I'm working for them. I'm working for my brother to show that although he did bad things, he wasn't a bad person. And it's all though that pain and that suffering and that like every piece of it comes out and it's just like, fuck Kosi, go. Right?
Right.
Push.
Right. So when you have like a day you wake up and you don't feel like getting up that day and doing the things you know you need to do, even the little things, like what do you go to? Do you go to that message right there?
I go to that message, right? I got a vision board and I look at the vision board. I look at that and I think of that and I get up, right? Because it's not me. It's not about me. It's about so much more than me.
Get the wheel cranking. Get the wheel cranking, man.
Gotta go. Go. We're all in quarantine now, and I'm always busy, but I'm probably busier now than I've ever been. Whether it's writing a book, whether it doesn't matter. Like it's go. When I have the extra time frees up, I fill it up because I'm not thinking about now. I'm thinking about 10 years from now, 20 years from now. What does that look like?
Right.
And I truly believe that, even having this opportunity to talk to you and share my story with your audience is another part towards that goal, right? So it all fits in that direction. There's so many things that I say no to, right? Like no to that, because it doesn't fit on my path.
Right.
It's not on my path.
Yeah. So what are you into right now? Let's tell the audience, what's your main thing you do every day now?
Yeah. So, I wake up every morning around the same time, 4:30 to 5, right? Somewhere in that range. Wake up in the morning, it's exercise, and then I get to work. So right now, get to work is, I'm working on a book. I'm working on some course material, educational course material on investing in real estate, right? I check in with general managers of the companies that I own, right? So I buy businesses and then use the cash flow from the businesses to buy real estate. So on any given day, every day is totally different. I don't work in any of the businesses per se. I've got, the great people that work in the business. I help to support it from a high level in terms of how we're going to set, in terms of high level sales and marketing 5-year vision, right? And then I'll let smart people do the what they're
Implementation.
great at,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so then I'm able to focus on acquiring other companies, right? So that's what I look at. I look at it, opportunities to acquire other companies, and I'm always looking to acquire companies, companies that have at least 50 employees ish, and looking for companies that generate at least a certain amount of revenues, and then acquire additional companies. Then we can use those cash flows to acquire additional real estate, and then just continue to build additional wealth so I can reach my goal. And then ultimately it is to help educate others. And I don't even know exactly what that platform will look like just
Right.
yet and how I'm going to do it, whether it's going to be an online platform or it's going to be bricks and mortar schools. I haven't figured out what that looks like, but I know for certain that if I could take what's in here and let people see that you don't have to be a 5-star all-star to accomplish wealth. You don't have to have rich parents to accomplish wealth. You can start where you are right now, as you are, and be successful in what you want to accomplish. And when I say success is different for everybody, and it's whatever it is for you. You can achieve that. You just have to be willing to. It has to be big enough that you can work for it. Because if it's not big enough that you can work for it, because getting knocked down is inevitable, right? And if you're not big enough, you work for it, you get the knockdown, you say, you know what, I'm out. But if it's big enough that you work for it, you say, you know what, although this is bad, I'm going to keep going.
Yeah. So take me from working at Burger King and how you started to buy businesses. Like people just don't go buying businesses.
Yeah. No,
So tell us that.
It's a 15-year journey. So it starts with, I say the foundation of my success is my budgeting. I'm good at budgeting. I learned that working at Burger King because I didn't have much money. So I was working at Burger King, but still saving $100 a month to put towards my school tuition, right? And then on top of school tuition, I wanted to save money for after school. So, and then I went from Burger King to Walmart. I was making $8 an hour, which is great, which meant I could save more money. And it's making little decisions like, okay, I'm not gonna, although I worked at Burger King, I'm not gonna buy Burger King to eat. I'm not gonna, because that's extra money that I couldn't afford. I could eat at home. I lived with my parents at the time. I'll eat their food instead of spending it out, right? I'm not going to buy, the brand new shoes. I'm not going to buy the brand new jersey. It's making those little choices so that by the time I graduated from university, not only had I paid for my tuition, I had $8,000. And now I've gone and I've got a step change in terms of my pay. I'm making $50,000 a year as an engineer. But I'm also studying businesses and I'm studying real estate. I'm getting my knowledge up. I read a lot. I read at least a book to a book and a half a week on different businesses and different ventures. So now I'm working as an engineer, and because I understood so much about businesses, because I self-taught myself on businesses, my career in engineering progressed really quickly, right? Because the management team's looking at it as like, this kid's not talking about, this is an engineer that's not talking about engineering. He's talking about our financials. He's talking about what we're paying for rental rates on a price per square foot basis and how we need to scale things back. Like I was different. So I got pushed into a management role. So now I'm buying real estate and I'm building the real estate portfolio.
Single family,
some multifamily. I bought up some apartment buildings as well. And then closer to the end, kind of getting into my 30s, I started buying commercial buildings as well. But now I've got assets. I've got mostly real estate assets. And when I went to get into business, I could use the assets that I built up as collateral to get a loan to buy business. And that's where the transition happened from the real estate to owning businesses. And then once you have success in one business, Now you can buy other businesses. They'll look at that and says, wow, he's really successful buying this first business. You can get like, you can buy another business and they'll finance like 90, 100% of it. Like people don't realize, like when you start getting into this world of buying companies and like for like, 50 million, it's actually easier to buy a company. It's going to sound crazy, right? But when you get to a certain level, it's easier to buy a company for $50 million than it is to buy a house for $2 million.
I bet. No. I'm in the mortgage. By the way, I'm in the mortgage business. So I get that.
Right. So because I look at the house, they'll say, okay, how much do you make? How much like all about you. What do you do? What do you do? What do you do? When they look at the business and say, okay, what's your history of owning a business? Is great. What's the cash flows in the business? Great. We'll fund you based on the success of the business. And if the margins are good enough, they'll fund up to 100%.
Right. So you're not collateralizing your assets at that point?
No, not anymore. Right. So
unsecured.
Now, because I have success now, I don't have to go down that road anymore.
Right. Yep. Now businesses, first of all, why would a business want to be sold?
It's great reason. So the hardest part of buying businesses is finding good businesses. And the ones that I like to buy it's always the same model. It's always people that started the business. So they started in their 30s and 40s, and then they're retiring. So they're in their 70s. I like to buy a business where they've owned it for 30 years and it's their baby and they care about it because I care about it. I want to see it last for 20, 30 years more, and I want to help it grow. So it's a business that I think I can help support grow. A lot of times by help support grow, I mean like I could do a lot in terms of social media, and you'd be surprised a lot of companies like that, they're not utilizing, whether it's Facebook, Instagram.
Especially the older folks, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you're buying it from them and then inject them, use the same system, inject it with what I call young energy, and then don't change what they do because they do a great job of what they're doing. They're successful. Don't change that. Just help them, support them in, some marketing and like kind of long-term vision and a growth plan, and then help grow it.
And do you ever get involved with any businesses that have a cultural issue that you have to go in and like shake up the culture, straighten out the culture, or do you stay away from those?
I stay away from that. Now, if the opportunity is great enough, I might look at it. But for my goal, because my goal is $1 billion, I can't spend 5 years digging inside a company to turn it around, or 2 or 3 years. I've got to buy companies that are already have management in place and are sustainable and are kind of running at the same level and it's predictable. And then what I'm trying to do is say, okay, let's inject a different vision and take it here in terms of sales and let the management team work with me to help grow. Right. But I'm not trying to do it like a different type of model. For me, I would say risk is different for everybody. For me, number one, because of what my goals are. I say no to a lot of things based on my goals of what I'm trying to accomplish. Right. And then number two, it's understanding what you're best at, where your skill set lies, and then understanding those two components, and then kind of
right, because then you could take your system that you have and keep everything simple, and just bring in your system because it'll translate well as long as you stay on focus, on point with what you're trying to accomplish. If you start digging into personalities and culture and all this other stuff, like you said, it does take time, and you may have to basically break the company down smaller and then rebuild. And that's not something you want to get involved with.
Yeah.
Gotcha. That makes sense. So, what's your book about that you're writing?
It's called Fuck Broke, Let's Get Rich.
I love it.
and really what it is it's written down my story of like what I just talked to you about. And it goes into details of the different points, and it goes to details of like what you can do. And at the end, you're going to read it and you're saying, there's nothing in there that I can't do, right? People are going to read it and they're going to say to themselves, there's nothing in there that he did that I can't fundamentally do. Like I talk about that first business that I bought. I said that when I got the financing with the real estate, I had to go to 150 different lenders.
So you got to ask yourself, are you willing to go to 150 different lenders?
Right?
150,
150 people that are skilled in business acquisition tell you no and give you the reason why they're telling you no. And a lot of times they're telling you no because they don't think you'll be successful at it.
You literally went to, you're not exaggerating, 150 different lenders.
Yes.
And then how many more were you going to go to before you gave up?
So my plan was all the lenders in Canada, the United States first. And after Canada, the United States, I didn't have to get there, but next was Europe. I was going to go to Europe, right? And after Europe was Asia. So I would have gone to 800 if I had to go to 800. Basically and all I need was one person to see what I saw, right? I just needed one person to see what I saw that I could, and work within an agreement that worked for me, right? And that's it, right? And that's what my mentality was, because I read about it. I read Bill Gates. He did the same fucking thing. I read Jeff Bezos. He did the same thing. There's so many countless stories of people who started out that didn't have anything. Warren Buffett, he did the same thing. When Warren Buffett was going on, he got tons. The richest man on the planet, one of the smartest investors on the planet, had a tough time raising money as an investment when he started out, because he wasn't that person yet. He had the knowledge that he was doing something great, but and one of the richest people, the richest person in Omaha at the time, said Warren Buffett's going to be broke in 2 to 3 years doing what he's doing. Now imagine if Warren had the mentality of like, because someone is notable tells me I'm a fuck up, that he's actually going to believe it, he wouldn't be what he is today. Right. And that's the truth of it. Like, it's one thing when your family tells you no. It's another thing when an industry expert looks at you and says no. And that's where most people stop, to be honest. It's not so much the family saying no. It's when they go out and they talk to an expert, and that expert says, no, you can't do it because of this, this, and that.
Right.
And when that happens, you gotta have so much resolve and persistence to say, you know what? I respect your opinion and I respect where you're coming at, and I'm listening. At the same time, I see something here that I believe in, so I'm going to keep going.
Now, are you spending any money yet? Are you still like really tight with your budget?
Oh no, we're not tight anymore. So now,
so you've loosened up a little bit.
Yeah, right. But it's similar percentages, but the numbers are bigger, so it allows you to do more stuff.
So
right?
what are your magic numbers then? The percentages? Did you stick to the same now?
No, so it's grown. So when I started out, I was like, okay, I want to save like 10%. So now I pay myself a salary and I don't take money out of the companies, right? But the salary that I pay myself is good enough that I can kind of freewheel it, right? So right. I ended up, like a couple of years ago, I bought an i8, right? Mm-hmm. And I owned it for like a summer. And then I was like, just because I was like, let's buy a fancy car, right? So I owned it for like a summer. And I also bought like a 5,000 square foot house, right? And I owned that for a bit. And I was like, you know what? Like, the house was too big. Like, I had like 8 bedrooms and like 8. And I was like, it's too much, right? So sell the house. And then the i8, I'm like, I'm buying companies. I'm like, I don't want to be driving up to companies in an i8, right? Because it just didn't feel right. It didn't feel right, like showing up that way. So I sold it too, right? So it's like, but a lot of the things that I just kind of got out of my system. I was like, well, that doesn't really resonate so much for me personally.
It wears off after a while,
right?
Yeah. I mean, it does.
Cool for a summer, and then I was like, well, whatever. I'd rather buy other stuff. So,
but here's the thing: like the i8, for example, if it made you feel good and made you confident when you got out to go in there, that's a different story. It's not about the i8 itself or the car itself or any of that stuff itself. It's how you feel, right?
Totally. Exactly.
And then so you can get that swagger that we were talking about, like you had in the in the third grade. So listen, I want to ask one more question here. Just what could you leave the audience with some tips? Give me 2 or 3 tips of somebody that's thinking about getting into, like, let's say they lost their job or they're thinking about getting out of a career where they get a salary right now and they want to work and start being an entrepreneur. Give me 3 things that pieces of advice that they should really abide by. And I know already one is a budget, but give me some other ones.
Yeah, no problem. The other one is find yourself a mentor if in that field. That you can, and it's easier said than done, but just work for it and find yourself a mentor. Someone that has accomplished what you want to accomplish, and start either reading their books, right? If you can't meet with them personally, and understand where their path is, and then reach out as much as you can. So if you can get yourself a mentor, that'll help in terms of kind of getting you from like 0 to 100 a lot quicker. And the next tip that I would give is, if you believe in it strong enough and heavy enough, understand that you are going to get knocked down, and that's part of learning. There's so much that you need to learn about being an entrepreneur and being in business. There's so much more that I know now than I knew 20 years ago. And even decisions I made 5 years ago, I wouldn't make this today based on knowledge and expertise that I have. And you only get some of that by doing. And understand that even if you build your business and you fail completely at it, which may happen, that doesn't mean that you fail as a person. And use that lesson and say, and the key is why did it happen? And what can I do in the future to not let that happen again? Right. And then another part that I do is don't overexpose yourself. And this is a harder one to do. Don't overexpose yourself financially. If you've got, family and stuff like that, you gotta understand that things don't always happen and you may fail. So if you're going to fail and you know that you can fail, make sure you can bounce back from the failure, right? So the failure is not going to completely wipe you out if possible. And so many things I can give. You know what? It really comes down to, when I look at people that have achieved, the one common thread is their level of persistence. And I'll give you an example. Whenever people ask me for money, I never say no, but I ask them a lot of questions. Even when I'm comfortable with the deal right away, I ask them a lot of questions. And people say, why do you ask so many questions? Because I want to see how persistent they are. They have to come back to me at least 15 to 20 times before I say yes. And even when I was thinking to say that's the number 2, because I need to know that this guy's not going to quit. That's it. Like the biggest thing, when I look at it, I'm like, that makes sense. I'm like, how do I know this guy's not going to quit on me? Right. And the only way I know is by pissing them off of saying, oh yeah, that looks good. Can you go back and send me this? They do it. I'm like, oh, okay. Can I see this?
Right. Or they're going to go somewhere else and get it. And then you don't have to worry about it.
Exactly. Or they're going to go somewhere else. But either way, I'm learning. Right.
That's right.
Like, I just keep asking questions. And like, you'd be surprised. The majority of people exclude themselves from doing business with me because they quit. And I think to myself, well, fuck, I would have never quit. If this guy hasn't come out and said flat, absolutely no, and I never say no, I just ask for more information. If he hasn't come out and said absolutely no, then I'm going to still going until he tells me no. I always tell people, they have to tell me no. They have to tell me no emphatically, get out before but if they're still interested, ask more questions. That's how I find out the level of persistence. Because I feel the number one trait that I see for myself and other people that I've accomplished, they all have different backgrounds, different whatever, is persistence.
Right. And for just one more question, because I was thinking about this around you. I know you have several employees, hundreds of employees, but your team around you on a daily basis, how many people do you have that you trust and believe in, that your leadership teams, that let's say 4 people?
4 in my core.
Yeah.
And that core, most of that core has been around for 20 years. Right. Yep. One of my closest friends, his name's Mark Andrews. We've been friends for 20 years. He saw me on that path. Like when I was deciding to quit engineering, that year I made over $200,000, right? And everyone told me how I was a rock star. Like you're doing this as an engineer, and plus I was getting, potential for company ownership for small percentage. And I told Mark about it, and he says, Kosi, you're not living up to your standards and expectations. What are you doing? Like I'm walking around thinking I'm the shit. Everyone's telling me I'm the shit, but he's the guy who looks, you're not doing enough. You're way better than that, right? Like how many billionaires do you know that have done that are fucking come on, Kosi, do better. So like that sort of drive. So that's my core. My core is like 4 people.
They're not afraid to call you out on your shit.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah. Because we all have voices in our head sometimes, and we may listen to the wrong one sometimes. We need somebody to point that out to us.
Exactly. Right.
Well, right. Hey, how can my audience get in touch with you, Kosi?
Actually the best way is on Instagram. I spent a lot. My Instagram handle is the property owl. So the word the, then the word property, then the word owl. That's the best way to get in touch with me. But because I'm most active on there, like I post a daily question. I do book reviews. I do all types of stuff live on there. That's the platform I'm most active on. And I give the most tips and tricks.
Okay. And any way we can support you, just go there and engage. Is that the best way?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, first of all, I want to thank you so much for joining us, coming on the show. You're part of the Waymo crew when you come on the show now. So the Waymo crew is a small group of fine individuals. And I appreciate you being a part of it. If there's anything your boy C-Roc can do for you, man, all you got to do is message me, shoot a message, stay engaged with me. And I look forward to watching your journey, brother.
Awesome. Likewise. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. You guys have been listening to the What Are You Made Of podcast with your boy, Mike C-Roc. You can subscribe, if you could, with your friends and family on iTunes and Spotify or your favorite platform for podcasts. And also the YouTube channel. If you like to watch these, you can go on YouTube and subscribe to Mike C-Roc Ciorrocco. And I post them all up there to watch as well. So until next time, guys, thank you so much for joining us. It's your boy C-Roc.